This review is not scripted. However, it is a highly edited freestyle. Hello, bronies and Pegasisters. My name is Frostcloud on my Mr. Chaos the Cunning Wolf channel, and this video is going to be a little different, I guess. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reviewing 2 episodes in a row. Considering how far behind I am as of right now, in this Chaos Reviews, I'm going to be reviewing both Episode 9 and 10 of MLP Season 8, Episode 9 being Non-Compete Clause, and Episode 10 being The Breakup Breakdown. Now, of course, I'm going to begin with Non-Compete Clause. This episode to me was alright. I definitely wouldn't call it worse than Fake It Till You Make It, but this episode was just good to me. Not great, but just good. I think my most favorite thing about that episode is the fact that the new characters, the students, are actually acknowledged again. You know, Yona, Gallus, Ocellus, Sandbar, Smolder, and Silverstream. They were finally acknowledged again, and that I was absolutely glad to see. It was too bad they didn't get as many lines as Applejack and Rainbow Dash did, but I guess that's how the episode had to go in order for its plot to work. And speaking of the new characters, the students, I really liked Ocellus in this episode. I really loved the part where she, along with Silverstream, transformed into an actual sea pony. I never knew changelings could actually do that, but that was really awesome to see. And also the part where she turned into a Bitacuda, you know, the little pony-eating fish, which during my reaction I actually said, oh, they look just as unsettling as the Puckwudgies, seriously, especially the noise they make. But yeah, Ocellus was absolutely awesome in this episode. All of the new characters were awesome in this episode. I really do hope we get more episodes in the season that actually acknowledge their existence. Because, don't get me wrong, ever since the premiere, the only time where we really saw them was during the episode Horseplay, but they only appeared as voiceless cameos for the plays, so I just really hope they're acknowledged. Maybe they'll play a major part in the finale, I'm pretty sure that's most likely, but that was definitely one of my most favorite things about Non-Compete Clause, is the fact that these new characters were finally acknowledged. I really like these characters, and I really wish to see more of them in the future in this season. Now, as for Applejack and Rainbow Dash in this episode, I have very mixed thoughts. Like, before I began this unscripted review, you know, this highly edited freestyle, I saw that some people, like, now a rule I have with myself, I don't usually watch other people's review until I get my review out first. You know, just so that ensures that I'm not copying other people's opinion. And I'm not doing any of the sort, because even if I did see any reviews, that was so long ago I probably don't even remember what they said, and after I get this video done, I'll have to go back and rewatch. But I remember seeing a couple of comments in those videos saying, I personally didn't think this was a good episode. Applejack and Rainbow Dash seemed to be acting just like they were in Season 1. And I know which episode they're talking about, you know, the Fall Weather Friends, you know, that episode from Season 1. I actually went back and watched that before I actually begun this review, and yeah, the lesson they learned makes sense. Friendship always comes before competition, but with Applejack and Rainbow Dash, I actually have a little bit of sympathy for them. I know how they feel, you know, as they were watching that Teacher of the Month award go to Fluttershy. I can understand their jealousy, and I could, you know, understand how they were feeling, because I know how it feels, you know, wanting to be relevant, so I understand how they feel in that field. Yeah, as for what they learned, yeah, it does feel like a repeated lesson, but again, okay, here's another unpopular thought I have about the episode. Another reason why I'm kind of able to look past what many others would consider a flaw, you know, Rainbow Dash and Applejack being the exact same as they were from Season 1. I don't really think that was really a lesson they had to relearn. I really think it's just part of their personality. I mean, you can't get me wrong. Some people, you know, competition is in their nature. You know, for some people, being competitive is part of their personality. It's not really something they can really control, or they really should work out, like, absolutely. Because at the ending, you know, at the end of the episode, when Applejack and Rainbow Dash just kept fighting and bickering over who was better, it just seemed like a part of their personality, and the way Twilight just rolled her eyes and went, like as if thinking in her head, those two will always be competitive, but didn't seem like their friendship was ending, so Yeah, and the ending kind of confused me. Like, I remember saying during my reaction, like, at first the ending made me feel like nothing was learned, but honestly, compared to Fake It Till You Make It, it feels like I was actually able to take something away from it. It was the same lesson repeated, but now I realized, sometimes there's a difference between learning a lesson and just having a personality. And in this case, it just seems like Applejack and Rainbow Dash just had a personality that they couldn't just get rid of overnight. So it kind of made me sympathize with it. And yeah, some of you may come at me saying, but their fighting nearly caused Yona to drown. Well, yeah, that I can agree with. And I guess maybe internally, Applejack and Rainbow Dash, after that, got the wake-up call. Like, maybe that's the reason why they suddenly switched to just, agreeing with each other so much up to a point where it was absolutely annoying, even for me. That's one little thing I actually will flaw this episode for. Like, before this review, I was almost gonna give this episode my normal 10 out of 10 paw ranking, but honestly, Rainbow Dash and Applejack agreeing with each other for literally the other half of the episode gets really old really fast. I understand what they were trying to do, in terms of the writing, but don't get me wrong, it really does get annoying really fast. Even the new characters acknowledge, even Gallus is like,
Stop! Listen, we can just fly everyone over and be done.
and I couldn't agree with him more. It was just getting old very fast. But overall, I don't think Applejack and Rainbow Dash are to be completely faulted in this episode. And if you feel that this was a bad episode, well, that by all means, that's okay. Everybody has their opinions. But I didn't really think this episode was really that bad in that field. But as I said, even I had a small issue. I even found that Applejack and Rainbow Dash endlessly agreeing with each other did get really old after a while. But the ending was... I'll call the ending questionable, but overall the thing that went on between Rainbow Dash and Applejack didn't really bother me as much as other people. Overall, when it comes to non-compete clause, I really liked the episode. Like I said before, I really liked how they actually acknowledged the new characters we were introduced to in the premiere. And I really wish they do more with them this season, but I don't know, maybe it'll be another long gap. And, like I said, the thing that went on between Applejack and Rainbow Dash didn't bother me too much, but yeah, I'm sorry to repeat myself here, but them endlessly agreeing with each other got really annoying after a while. But it's only a small flaw to me. Everything else about this episode was awesome. Just seeing the new characters here actually speaking instead of being voiceless cameos, seeing the things that Ocellus was able to transform into, that was just absolutely awesome to see. So out of 10 paws, I give this episode 9. And now for the breakup breakdown. Wow, after seeing it again a few more times, I really have quite the thoughts on this episode. For starters, it's, like I said during my reaction, it's kind of what I thought it would be, by the title, The Breakup Breakdown. I thought this episode was going to be tackling a rather hard subject to tackle, which is a breakup. It's not easy, and, I've never been in a relationship, and I never intend to be after what's happened to me in my life, but if the divorce between my parents has taught me anything other than everything else, it's taught me that, breakups are never easy, not only for, the couple itself, but, for everybody involved, including the children, which is me. I'm obviously one of them. But I didn't think it would also be about, communication is better than assuming things and eavesdropping is wrong. Now, I have my thoughts on the eavesdropping is wrong thing, but I'll get to that soon. I can picture what Big Mac went through in this episode. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason why a lot of other people will really like this episode as well. Me personally, I just like this episode because I like it when the writers show this kind of bravery, when they're brave enough to tackle an already difficult subject like this. While I can't say I relate to it because, like I said, I'm not in a relationship and I don't ever intend to be, I can put myself in the shoes of other people who are in relationships and have actually gone through breakups, and I can picture them relating to Big Mac in this episode, so it's funny, even though I can't relate to it, I still really like this episode for that, because I find that it can just be relatable to many other people who are going through the same thing in that regard. But I can say if I was going through what Big Mac was going through, and, you know, being in the personality that I am, having the new personality I do after my parents got a divorce, yeah, I would be feeling exactly the way he is. You know, I'd be sad, I'd be depressed, and I think I'd be a little different, you know, in terms of being worse. You know, I wouldn't really want to, I could actually picture myself shutting down altogether. I'd feel incompetent, not only sexually, but in many other fields as well, you know? Like, am I incompetent and just loving altogether, or am I incompetent of interacting altogether? And I have this personal rule of mine, and I'm not forcing it upon you, I'm not saying it should apply to anybody else, but just through my experiences in my life, I just have this personal rule for myself. I'm only allowed one relationship in my life, and that being said, I need to get it right. You know, I need to do well at it. You know, I need to make sure that relationship is good. Because for a long time now, I believe that saying, it's not cheating if you already broke up with her, I honestly think it's false, so that's why I have that rule for myself. I'm only allowed one, and because I'm only allowed one, I need to make sure I do well at it, and I need to make sure there's a high level of trust in that relationship so absolutely nothing goes wrong. Because after what I've been through in life, I always get this feeling like really everything can go wrong, even the smallest things. And I know that's just negative thinking, but that's just part of my new personality nowadays. But, you know, if I was going through what Big Mac was going through, I really could picture myself being like him. In fact, maybe even worse. Now about the whole eavesdropping thing, like I mentioned ago, I understand, you know, I understand the moral. You know, a lot of people like to believe that eavesdropping is wrong, and in some cases that can be right. You know, in Big Mac's case, you know, eavesdropping only brought him a false interpretation that broke his heart. And so, yeah, I can understand why eavesdropping would be wrong in that field, but I can't help but think in my head every time I hear Sugar Bell say,
eavesdropping is wrong.
I always think in my head, well, that's a little debatable. I mean, in a good case scenario, eavesdropping can be a good way if finding out of somebody you love in a relationship is being dishonest with you. You know, whether she or he is cheating on you, or whether she is doing something dishonest. You know, whether your partner is just doing something completely dishonest. Like, eavesdropping is a good way of finding that out instead of finding out later over time. You know, sometimes you can only find... Sometimes, you know, things like this can go on for years. Like, you know, it can be years before you realize that this person was actually dishonest, and, you know, in all that time, just more and more damage have been done. Like, imagine this scenario, you know, imagine if you did believe that eavesdropping was wrong and you never did it. But it turns out, you know, somebody you love, someone who was your partner, has actually been cheating on you for years. And, you know, what if it was like one of those situations where your partner is unknowingly cheating on you, and yet you two are still sexually active, and you never know you're being cheated on, and you only find out years, if not even decades later, and it was all because you believed eavesdropping was wrong. Now, I'm sorry to get deep into this, but that's just how I personally feel. Again, I understand what they're trying to do. Like, eavesdropping is wrong, and I can understand there are several circumstances where eavesdropping can be wrong. It can give you the false interpretations of something. But in some cases, it can be a good way of finding evidence that, you know, your significant other, or just girlfriend or boyfriend, even before you're married or whatever, is being dishonest with you, is either cheating on you, or is doing something behind your back. And, you know, it's just, I really believe in, you know, people just getting the truth earlier instead of finding out way later, because if they find out just way later in life, the betrayal is deeper. Trust me, it is. You'd be surprised, you know, people would be a lot less heartbroken, you know, depending on what the distrust is, you know, if they found out earlier. But if they find out later on, you know, that tells them way more than, you know, the basic, you know, you not only betrayed them, but you also wanted to be dishonest with it for this long. That's also another thing to take in mind when they're coming forth on you about that only after all this time. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but I just had to get that all off my chest, and I am not flaws this episode for that. Like, I understand, you know, even the writers of the show can even have their own opinions as well. You know, morals are not always something that has to be gotten right all the time. I mean, even the writers can be flawed as well, and even the writers can have their opinions, so I'm not faulting the writers, and I am not flawing that episode for that. I just thought I'd give my opinion on, the whole eavesdropping is wrong thing. Now, I have another thought about this episode, and it's just regarding the characters that are featured in this episode in general. I find that Discord, Big Mac, Spike, and the CMC all represent different stages in the world of love. Now, Discord to me sort of represents someone who isn't interested in a relationship. Someone who wants to remain alone. Hence Discord not really believing in love. And, I understand people like that, whether it's because you're asexual or something, or maybe you've been hurt by somebody, or love has just always been an alien factor to you. Like, if it has been an alien factor to you, then by all means, that's alright. Life should never be about going into, just throwing yourself into things that don't make you happy or you're not interested in. When you adapt things, when you go into things, you have to be interested, you have to want it. You shouldn't just go into something all because somebody told you have to do it, all because somebody told you have to be in a relationship. No, being an asexual, or just whether you prefer, just someone who isn't interested in love in general, if you prefer that word, just being that way by all means is alright. And, I just wanted to say this because Discord sort of represents that type of person, I know it's My Little Pony, so they can't really show that in broad daylight, but I'm just saying, metaphorically, that's what I saw in Discord. That's what I saw him represent. And Big Mac, well, Big Mac is the obvious. Big Mac represents someone who is in a happy relationship and, who, of course, still wants love. And, Big Mac is, the example of somebody who has gotten there, has gotten to that stage in life, who has found love. And Spike and the CMC, to me, are kind of the same thing. Both of them are ones who, they're not like Discord, they're not like, the people who don't want a relationship or are just asexual. There are just people who are just looking for love, Spike is still looking for love, obviously, him and the Rarity thing, or maybe him and Ember. I'm not a shipper, so I'm not going to try to decide or try to say one ship is better, because again, I'm not a shipper. And, the CMC, Sweetie Belle trying to find her special sun pony, even though she's so young. But I think it's because she's so young, I think her being young literally represents that kind of person, the young, impressionable person who's just looking for love. And Spike is also young as well. I mean, he's still a baby dragon who can talk, so I guess he's actually just a toddler, but I never really knew the age of Spike. But, yeah, that's just something I wanted to say, all of the characters in this episode, Discord, Big Mac, Spike, and the CMC, all represent different stages. They all represent people who are in different stages in the world of love. And that's just something I just wanted to say. Overall, this was an interesting episode to me. It was definitely an interesting episode. I really love the small attention to detail everywhere. I like how we got to see... I really liked Mrs. Cake's interaction with Sugar Belle. I really like, those small scenes where she's giving her advice, I really like seeing those type of scenarios. And I liked all the small details, when Big Mac was walking around town, looking at all the other couples, after he was under the impression that Sugar Belle wanted to break up with him, seeing Cranky Doodle and Matilda, and, of course, Maud and Mudbriar. I'm glad they kept that continuity there. And the Lyra and Bon Bon thing. I know they love each other as friends, so yeah, that's good going along with them. And, oh yeah, and as I said during my reaction, I can understand what Big Mac feels. Again, this kind of goes back to me saying, I understand how Big Mac feels, but I can expand on that a little bit. When Big Mac was walking through the town looking at all the other happy couples, that's kind of like me during Christmas now. That is me. I'm always the odd man sitting in the corner. I'm the child of divorce who's always looking at all the other members of the family. They're more successful, they're married, they never broke up, and their kids are happy. And, yeah, you can call it jealousy. I'm pretty sure it is jealousy, but, you can't really blame me. I mean, everybody deserves a normal life. Everybody deserves a normal family, and that's just been something I'm deprived of, and it's, as you can see, it's really changed what I am. I don't want a relationship anymore. My sexuality is very different. Maybe one day I will talk about that in greater detail, because I am relatively brave in that category. I'm not shy about it anymore, and besides, you know, if you all have differing opinions, or if you're gonna bully me for it, I honestly don't really care, because I'm actually pretty antisocial now anyway. I have very few friends anyway. But yeah, that's just one more thing I wanted to say, at least. You know, I do relate to Big Mac in that field, you know, seeing other people who are more successful in terms of having a relationship or having a family. I definitely understand. You know, just add some snow scenery and some Christmas lights, and there you go, it's just like me, it's just during Christmas. But again, overall, this was a good episode. I wouldn't call it my favorite, but it is the most interesting. It really got me thinking. And, you know, other than episodes that I absolutely adore, like Fame and Misfortune, or I don't know, The Canterlot Wedding, or several of the other finales, you know, I just call this one of those episodes where I like it because, you know, kind of like Surf and or Turf, I wouldn't call it my most favorite episode, but the reason why I like it is because it really got me thinking, and I really like episodes that get me thinking like this, episodes that keep me talking for such long periods of time like this. One tiny flaw I think I would give this episode, however, is its ending. Like, the ending was good. I would call it good. It's not bad, it's not horrible, but the way it was set up, it just felt a little unfinished to me, if you know what I mean. I mean, I just feel that a proper ending would be, you know, actually seeing the surprise, you know, at the barn, you know, actually seeing the party or something, but we don't see that. All we see is, you know, the CMC, you know, coming to rest with their whole mission, you know, Sweetie Belle learning that, oh, the invitation was really for Sugar Belle, and oh, I was feeling bad for myself this entire time, and I feel really stupid about it. And with Spike and Discord, it really ended. Really, I don't know. I guess it ended with them playing that Ogres and Oubliettes thing, which I'm so glad they didn't focus all this episode on. But yeah, that's just one little flaw, just to me, I find with this episode. The way the ending is set up, it just feels a little incomplete. But that's just really, really small. So, therefore, out of 10 paws, I give this episode 9.5 out of 10. Always remember, everything said in this video is only my opinion. Simple as that. As always, my name is FrostCloud. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bro Huff.